now time to UV unwrap our object. But before that, let me just go over something here. Now, there are times when you are modeling and you accidentally have some additional vertices that you don't know about. And I'll show you what I mean here. So if I should left click my object here and go into edit mode, I'm going to rotate around to the bottom here. Now remember when we extruded and then scaled in by 0? Now there are times when you might have extruded and accidentally added some extra vertices and you don't know. Let me actually turn off the subdivision surface here. So I'm going to press this button right here to just, well, hide it like so. So we are back into the blocky state. But don't worry, we can just press it to turn it on back when we're done. So I'm going to turn that off and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So right here where we scaled in by 0, if I should left click on that and press G to grab, look what happens. I'm going to left click on this point again, click and drag, and we can see that, I mean, this is not the result that we were expecting, right? It's all broken up and it's not looking very good. Now that sometimes happens and you don't know about it. So how do we fix that? Let me just undo this. Yeah. So to fix that, just simply select the entire object, go to mesh, and then come down here to where it says cleanup and select merge by distance. Now once you click that, if you look here, it says removed 9 vertices. So we had 9 hidden vertices that we didn't know about. Now if I should just, let me just left click over here to deselect. So if I should left click on my point there now, as you can see, it's already highlighted the rest of these lines there. So if I should grab, you can see that it's now the way it should be, right? There are no hidden vertices. It's moving all at once. We did the same thing for the cork. So I'm just going to go back to the cork here and I'm going to hide the subsurf modifier here. Go into edit mode, left click here, drag, and we can see it's the same thing. So I'm just going to release that, select my object here, mesh, cleanup, and merge by distance. And it says removed 9 vertices as well. All right, so we're good to go right here. Okay, so let me turn on back my subsurf modifier. let me go again. Let me turn on my subsurf modifier for each of these by just selecting them and then clicking on that button there. Make sure that you save your project. So go to File, Save As, save it wherever you want on your computer. Give it a name here and then save. Okay. So let's get to UV unwrapping. Now to do that, we need to be in the UV editing workspace. So go up here, select UV editing. And once you're in the workspace, you'll see the screen will be split into 2. So your UVs will be over here and your object will be here. So let's go ahead and try some basic unwrapping techniques now. So A to select and press U. And I'm going to try unwrap. And we can see that it's unwrapped, but there are tons of points here that are underneath each other, right? It might look good from the wider view, but it is indeed not. So I'm going to try another one. So I'm going to press A, U, Smart UV Project. Going to leave these settings there and click OK. And this one is looking much better, but the problem with this is that it's all broken up into different parts. And I'll show you why that's an issue. Let me turn on this button here, press this button over here to the left that says UV sync selection. And what that does, it allows us to see what face we have selected in either of these views here, right? So if I should click this to go to face select mode and I select my face on my object here, we can see which face correlates with the object over here. So if I should just hold on shift, left click, and just select these, we can see. So the problem is that these faces that are close to each other, as we can see in our UVs here, they're far apart. So if you should add a texture, and let's say you add a text, right, and you have the text written from maybe here to all the way here, it will be broken up because this is a part of this. So you'll see a bit of the text over here and a bit of it over here. Okay, so this is a no-no. This is not going to work for our UVs. So we already know that to have full control over our UVs, we need to go ahead and mark some seams. All right, so let's go ahead and do just that. And I'm going to go back into my layout view here. And I'm going to hide my bottle cap here by just selecting it, coming over here to my outliner, turn it off right there, select my bottle, go into edit mode, and I'm going to go to the back view. And for that, I'm going to go to control. I'm going to press control and the 1 key on my numpad. And then now I'm at the back. I'm going to make sure that I'm in vertex select mode. And I'm going to select this entire loop at the back here. So I'm going to just hold on my Alt key, left click on that, and we can see that it's selected. All right, but I don't want this point to be selected. So I'm going to hold on my Shift key and left click on that point to remove it from my selection. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to hold on my Shift key and then left click on that point to remove it from my selection. So now with that selected, I'm just going to press the Control and the E key and select mark seam to mark those seams right there. And I think I want to mark this ring as well. So where this ends, I'm going to mark this ring. So I'm going to hold on my alt key, select anywhere between 2 points here, just left click between those 2 points. All right, we could have left click between these 2 points. It doesn't matter which 2 points, as long as it's on the same ring. So with that loop selected, I'm going to press Control and E, mark seam, and we have those seams marked. So let's go back to UV editing, and I'm going to select my entire bottle there, press U, and I'm going to select unwrap. And this is looking much better than what we had before. So we could work with this, right? We could work with this, but I'm going to show you something else that you could do to your UVs to make it even much more better. And this doesn't work on everything, but on most things. Now, the ideal way to have your UVs is to have them as straight as possible, because we know that we have a curved object here, right? And we can see the UVs are curved. So when we add texture onto it, maybe the texture itself will be flat, and maybe you don't want certain parts to be curved, and you want to have more control over that, right? So the ideal thing to do is to have somewhat of a straight UV. Now this is good as is, we could use it this way, but I'm going to show you this just so you have the knowledge. Let's straighten the UVs here. So for that, we need to select something that is central to, well, it doesn't really matter here, right? I'm just going to select one of these cubes here. So I'm going to select this one right here. Well, this is actually a rectangle. And what we want to do, we want to make sure that all the points are straight. So we need to scale them by 0. So whatever axis they're on, we need to scale them on that axis by 0. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to select these 2 points here. And I think this is on the y-axis. So, and we can test that out. So we can press S to scale. And I'm going to press X first and then 0. Okay, so we know that that's not on the x-axis. So let me just right click to release that. And let's go again, S, Y, and 0. Okay, and then left click to release. So we know that these points are on the y-axis. I'm going to select these 2, S, Y, 0. And notice how that became straight. So that's what we want. So I'm going to select these lines here. And this is on the x-axis. So I'm going to S, X, Z, and it lined itself up. So select these 2, S, X, 0. And we have all of our lines straight. So I'm going to go back to face select mode here, and I'm going to left click on this face here, because this is the only straight face that we have so far. And let me just zoom out here. Now we need to select all the other faces as well. So with this selected, just press the L key on your keyboard to select everything else. And then we want to right click and click on follow active quads. And look at that. Our UVs are now straight. And that is awesome. Now we don't need to worry about this one here, right? This is just fine. This is flat and it's good. This is just a circular pattern, so you wouldn't want to try to straighten this out. You'll probably get horrible results. So for the majority of this is really good. Now that we have our UVs, what can we do with the UVs? Well, we can import our texture, or we can create our own custom texture. We remember my concept here. I'm just going to show you how you could apply a part of this, and then you can do the rest on your own. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is I need to select my UVs over here. So I'm going to press A to select all of these, and then I'm going to go up here to UV, and we need to select export UV layout, and just find a location on your computer. It's good to create a folder to organize your stuff. and I'm going to call this bottle underscore UV and click on export UV layout. And with that exported, we now need to bring those exported UVs into Krita, GIMP, or Photoshop. Any one of those programs that you use that you will be able to create your texture. Use the one that you're most comfortable with. So I'm just going to, I already have Photoshop opened up, so I'm just going to drag this in Photoshop. Usually I'll be using Krita, but this is okay for now. And here we have our texture. So the first thing that I want to do is just to add a background so that we can see what we're doing here. So let me just add a basic background here. I'm going to move this down to the bottom, make sure that our UVs are at the top. And now we need to apply our image onto the texture. So let me just go for my logo here. And I'm going to scale this down. Now you might be wondering, how do we know which where to place the logo? Well, we can just go back to Blender. And remember, when we selected this, it helps us to know which face correlates to our UVs over here. So I'm going to press one key with my cursor over here, the one key on my numpad, to switch to the front view. And I'm just going to select here because I know that my logo is supposed to be within this space here. And we can see that these are the faces that we need to add the texture to. Okay, so go back to your software of choice, and I'm just going to rotate my logo here and place it onto those faces. So let me actually go back here and see. Okay, so that is somewhere within this space here. All right, so I think I'm fairly close, if not in the correct place. All right, so once we add that, we can go ahead and test it out. So turn off your UV. Let me put this below my UVs. So turn off your UVs, and you want to save this out. By the way, if you have a background on it, the background will be saved as well. All right, so I'm going to leave the background on for now, and you want to save this out as a PNG image. Okay, I'm going to call this bottle underscore texture, so TXTR for short. Save and go back to Blender, and we now need to apply that texture. And we already know that in order to see the texture, we'll need to be in either render view or the viewport shading view. So I'm just going to move my mouse here, scroll my mouse wheel down like so, and then I'm going to, well, I'm already in the viewport shading mode. So with my object selected here, I'm just going to press A to select my bottle here, and I'm going to click on new over here to add a material first. And where it says base color, I'm going to select this yellow point right here, click on image texture, and I'm going to go to open, and I want to search for that very texture that I just saved. So it's right here in my folder here, bottle underscore TXTR, and I'm going to click on open, and let me press AA to deselect that, and we can see that my image is on my bottle. So I'm in object mode now, so we can take a look at it, and that is looking fairly good. All right, now of course it's not where it needs to be. I need to bring it down a bit, but we can always adjust, turn on back our UVs in Photoshop here. And remember, you can use Krita or Photoshop or whatever program that you want, whichever program you're comfortable with. I'm just going to move this over here, and then what we need to do now is just turn off our UVs and resave. So I'm going to just resave this here and then reapply it inside of Blender. So we need to go to this folder icon here and just double click on it again to bring in the updated version. And that is looking really, really good. All right, so this is what you do to just add your entire texture to the object. Okay, now you definitely don't need to use these textures that I have on my concept here, right? You can do your own thing. And that's the beauty about this, right? Do your own thing and apply your very own textures onto your object. Now, there's something to keep in mind, and that is our seams around here. So let me just address this now. Now, because our seams are here, we'll more than likely get some discrepancies when we add textures that go on this end right here. And I'll show you what I mean here. Now, notice on my concept, I have these lines wrapping around. So I'm going to place that on the object just to show you what I mean. So I'm going to turn on back my UVs there, and I'm going to go back to my front view here, I'm going to select these areas just so I'll know where to place that line. Okay, so it's immediately underneath my logo here. So let me go back to Photoshop here, and I'm going to add that line like so. And it doesn't matter if you have a portion of your texture outside of the UVs. Okay, that is just fine. So I'm just going to add this here. Let me change the color so that we are able to see. All right, and it's somewhere below here. Now remember that our texture is wrapped around our object, right? So this line is supposed to come back around this side and meet somewhere here. I'm going to duplicate my line here and just move this over to the side like so. So it's in the same position, just on the opposite side. So it should wrap seamlessly around my object. Let me turn off my UVs now, go back to save it. So let me just save it out, and I'm going to go back to Blender here, reopen my image, bottle texture, and let's take a look at it. All right, so that is looking good from the front, but if we rotate around the back, wow, okay, so it looks good. Typically, depending on what you do, you might have some discrepancies, and there is a bit of discrepancy, but what you can do to fix it, if you find that you have like your texture is a bit warped, you could just add some edge loops, right? So this is how I was expecting it to look. So if you get something like this, you could just add some edge loops and, you know, move it down or move it up as necessary to make your lines more straight. But I didn't get that for some reason. I really thought that I would. But yeah, so just look out for that and you should be fine. So this is how you do it to apply your texture. Now, you can also apply multiple textures. So for example, note that right here is white and here is white and here is also white. So we have different color variations. So you could just select that area, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. Just select the rings. I'm going to hold down Shift here, select this entire area. And with that selected, what you want to do is just press the plus sign here, click on New, and click on Assign to assign that new material onto what you have selected. Okay, so you can have multiple materials mixed in with your textures. Okay, so we're going to stop here, and I want you guys to finish up the rest of this on your own. Go ahead and, you know, add your own textures and stuff like that. This is a very ugly bottle, but you know, of course, you guys are the artists. I'm sure yours will look phenomenal. So that's it for this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one.